Hello friends, welcome to Shadow Whisperer. All you see is darkness, just the sound of rain. Designed to help you relax, focus on the story, and drift into sleep. But before you do, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yes, feel free to share where you're listening from in the comments. Now, let's begin. I always thought nothing truly bad could happen in a place like Eileen's. It was a quiet little town, the kind where everyone knows your name. The local diner still remembered how you took your coffee, just how you liked it. For most people, Eileen's felt peaceful. It felt safe, like a warm, soft blanket wrapped around you. It was where Zach and I had built our small life. We lived in a small apartment there. Our place was right above an old bookstore. The smell of old paper and dust always drifted up, a comforting smell. It felt like home. Every morning, the sun would peek through our window. It would light up the dusty floorboards. We'd wake up slow, sometimes just lying there. We'd listen to the quiet sounds of the town waking up, the distant rumble of a delivery truck, the soft chirping of birds outside. It was a gentle start to each day. We were both just trying to figure out our next steps in life. I was working part-time at a coffee shop, saving up for something, anything. Zach had bigger plans. He wanted to build things, real things, like furniture, or maybe even small houses. His hands were always itching to create. He saw shapes in wood and metal. Zach, though, he had plans. Big, bright plans. He was always scribbling down ideas. He had this old leather-bound notebook, and he kept it like it was the most important thing in the world. He wrote in it all the time. Ideas for a new business, drawings of things he wanted to build. He even wrote down silly jokes sometimes. His mind was always buzzing with new thoughts. He'd show me his sketches, lines and circles that made no sense to me, but he'd explain them, his eyes shining. He'd make me see his vision. I was still figuring myself out, still trying to find my own path. Zach was always pushing me in a good way. He'd say, "Just try it, man. What's the worst that can happen?" He made me feel brave, like I could do anything. He saw things in me that I couldn't see myself. He was my anchor. But every evening, we had our constant. It was our special thing. A long walk through Gray Line Park. We'd go down the wooded trail, right near the edge of town. It was our ritual, our quiet time together. We'd talk about our day, or just walk in comfortable silence. The sounds of the town would fade away as we got deeper into the trees. We'd share our worries, our small victories. Zach always knew how to make me feel better. He had this way of looking at the world, so hopeful. He'd tell me about the future, about a small house with a big workshop, about us growing old together. His words painted pictures in my mind. Sometimes we'd just point out shapes in the clouds, or listen to the crickets start their evening song. It was simple. It was perfect. That evening wasn't supposed to be different. It was just another normal day. The sun was starting to go down, painting the sky in soft colors. Orange and pink bled into purple, the kind of sunset that makes you stop and stare. Like the sky was putting on a show just for us. The air was just starting to cool. It had been a warm day, but now a nice breeze was picking up. The sunset had dipped into that dusky blue. It was a color that made everything look like it was underwater, like we were walking through a dream. We'd taken the usual path, the one that brushed the edge of the forest. Tall trees stood on one side, their branches reaching up high. Their leaves rustled softly, like they were whispering secrets. On the other side, the town lights started to twinkle in the distance. We were laughing about something stupid. It was probably something Zach had said. He always had a way of making me laugh, even when I didn't feel like it. His jokes were always a little silly, but they made me smile. His hand brushed mine then. It was a light touch at first. Then he held it, like always. His fingers wrapped around mine, warm and strong. I remember thinking how lucky I was right then, how simple and perfect everything felt. The world seemed to hold its breath for us in that moment. I remember the smell of pine trees. It was fresh and clean, a deep, earthy smell that filled my lungs. I remember the sound of leaves crunching under our feet. It was a soft, gentle sound, a rhythm to our steps. We walked on, talking about what we'd eat for dinner. Maybe pizza, maybe something from the diner. My stomach rumbled a little. I was already thinking about that first bite of cheesy pizza. Zach was talking about a new design idea. He was so excited. His voice was bright. He was gesturing with his free hand, He was planning out loud. Then the sound changed. It wasn't leaves anymore. It was something else. Something harder, faster. Footsteps. My head snapped up. Zach stopped talking. The laughter died in my throat. A cold feeling started in my stomach. They were fast, and they were close. Too close. My heart gave a little jump. It started to beat like a drum. 2 men emerged from the shadows. They seemed to just appear out of nowhere, like they had been waiting. They wore hoods, pulled low over their faces. I couldn't see their eyes. One was tall. He had broad shoulders, hunched like a boxer ready to fight. He looked like a big, dark shadow. The other was wiry. He looked thin, but his hands were twitchy. They moved all the time like he couldn't keep them still. My breath caught in my throat. They didn't say much. They just blocked the path, stood right in front of us. One of them asked for money. His voice was so calm, it chilled me to the bone. It wasn't angry or loud, just flat and cold, like he was asking for the time. My mind raced. I fumbled for my wallet. My hands were shaking so bad. I just wanted them to leave, to just go away. Zach stepped in front of me without even thinking. It was automatic for him, always protecting me, always my shield. He told them we didn't have anything. I remember the way his voice cracked. Not with fear, not really. It was anger, a protective anger, like he always had when someone got too close to me or tried to hurt me. He stood tall, even though they were bigger. He told them to leave us alone. His voice was firm. He wasn't backing down. He never did. Not for anything. And then, steel glinted, a flash of silver in the dim light. The tall one lunged forward. It happened so fast, like a bad dream. Zach shoved me back. He pushed me so hard I fell to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of me. My head hit the dirt. Stars exploded behind my eyes. I scrambled to get up. My body felt heavy and slow. I screamed. The sound I made wasn't human. It was raw and wild. It tore from my throat, a sound of pure terror. I watched as the knife plunged into his chest. Once, then twice. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. He just stood there. His body stiffened. The look on his face wasn't fear, it was confusion. He was trying to process what was happening. His eyes were wide, like he couldn't believe it, like his mind was trying to catch up. Blood soaked through his shirt fast. It spread like a dark flower on his chest, a terrible blooming red. I crawled to him, my hands shaking so bad. I pressed my hands against his wound. I screamed for help. My voice was hoarse, but no one was coming. We were too far into the park. The attackers were gone, just like that. Like ghosts, they melted back into the shadows. I didn't even hear them run away. They just vanished. One moment they were there, the next, only the quiet of the park. Zach's eyes found mine. They were unfocused, blurry. He was blinking, like he was trying so hard to stay awake. His lips moved, but no sound came out. I leaned closer, tried to hear, but there was nothing. Just a soft, ragged breath, then nothing. Just stillness. His eyes stared past me, empty. His hand went limp in mine. The world went silent. The air felt heavy, cold. My hands were sticky with his blood. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight. A terrible quiet fell over everything. The crickets had stopped singing. The breeze had died down. Even the leaves were still. That was the last time I ever heard his voice. The last time I saw him breathe. The last time he was truly there. The ambulance came. The sirens wailed, cutting through the quiet night. A harsh, tearing sound. Paramedics rushed in. Their flashlights cut through the darkness. Their voices were sharp and urgent. They worked fast, too fast. But I knew the moment his eyes went still. My heart knew. He was gone. My world had just ended. They lifted him onto a stretcher. His body looked so small, so still. They covered him with a white sheet. I rode in the ambulance, numb. The world outside the window was a blur of lights. Everything felt unreal. The flashing red and blue lights painted the trees. They looked like monsters in the night. The sirens screamed. At the hospital, they took me to a small room. A nurse gave me a blanket. It felt rough against my skin. It smelled like disinfectant. I pulled it tight around me, but it didn't make me feel warm. Nothing could. The police came too. They asked me questions, so many questions. My voice felt like it wasn't mine. It was shaky and small. They wanted to know every detail, what the men looked like, what they said, what Zach said, everything. I tried to tell them. The words felt thick on my tongue. They didn't come out right. My mind was still stuck back in the park. They said it was a robbery, random, that these things happen, like it was just a normal part of life. But it didn't feel random. It felt like the world had stopped for me, like a cruel joke. The cops interviewed me like they didn't believe a word I said. I could see it in their eyes. The doubt, the subtle glance to the bruises on my arms from where Zach had pushed me. They looked at my torn clothes, my messy hair, like I was hiding something, like I was part of it. The way they gently implied maybe it wasn't as random as I claimed. Maybe I knew more. Maybe I was hiding something. Their words were soft, but their eyes were hard. They looked at me like I was a puzzle they couldn't solve, or a liar. They asked if Zach had enemies, if we had any problems, like it was our fault, like we had invited this, like we had done something wrong. The questions kept coming, one after another. They drilled into my head. Zach's parents came down from Oregon. They looked so tired, so broken. His mom's eyes were red and swollen. His dad's face was pale, his jaw tight. It was like looking at older versions of Zach, but filled with so much pain. I had to tell them what happened. It was the hardest thing I ever did. My voice cracked. I couldn't look them in the eye. I saw the moment the words hit them, the way his mom's face crumpled, the way his dad's shoulders slumped. I had to tell them it was all my fault, because it was, wasn't it? If I hadn't begged him to take the long route, the one through the park, if we'd turned back sooner, if I'd fought harder, if I'd done anything different, maybe he would still be here. Maybe they wouldn't be hurting so much. His mom hugged me. She cried into my shoulder. Her tears soaked my shirt. Her body shook with sobs. I felt nothing, just the rough fabric of her sweater. His dad just looked at me, his face a mask of pain. He didn't say much, just nodded slowly. His eyes were empty. He looked like he had aged 20 years in one night. The silence between us was heavy, full of unspoken grief. The funeral was a blur. It felt like I was watching it from far away, like I was outside my own body. I stood next to his mother. Both of us wore black clothes we hadn't owned until then, clothes bought just for this day, for this sadness. I remember someone from the bookstore bringing flowers, a big bunch of white lilies. They smelled sweet, but it made me feel sick. The scent was too strong. It felt wrong, like it was trying to cover up the smell of death. It made my head spin. A teacher Zach once had in community college gave a speech. He talked about Zach's kindness, his big dreams, his bright smile. The speech made everyone cry. People around me were openly sobbing. Their shoulders shook. Their faces were wet with tears. But me? I didn't cry, not a single tear. Something had frozen inside me. A part of me had died with Zach. It was like a block of ice in my chest, hard and cold. It wouldn't melt. It wouldn't let me feel anything. Just numb. The days after the funeral were even worse. The house felt too quiet. Every corner echoed with his absence. I'd walk into a room and expect to see him there, expect to hear his laugh. But there was nothing, just silence. Weeks passed, then months. The world kept spinning. But I didn't. People stopped calling. Their calls became fewer. Then they stopped altogether. The world moved on, just like that, like nothing had happened, like Zach never existed. They went back to their lives, their jobs, their families, their normal, but my normal was gone, forever. I didn't. I couldn't. Every day was the same. A heavy gray cloud hung over everything. My apartment felt empty. It felt too big, too quiet, like a tomb. I was trapped inside it, with my thoughts, with my pain. I quit my job at the coffee shop. I couldn't stand the smell of coffee anymore. It reminded me of our mornings, our talks. Every cup I poured felt like a betrayal. Every customer's smile felt like a lie. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't walk past the park anymore. Just seeing the entrance made my stomach twist. It was a place of ghosts now. A place of screams. A place where everything ended. My feet would just refuse to go that way. I started sleeping with the lights on. Every single light in the apartment, even the bathroom light. I needed the brightness. The darkness felt like it was hiding things, like monsters were lurking in the corners, waiting to grab me. Every noise outside made me jump. A car horn, a dog barking, footsteps on the street. They all sounded like danger, like someone was coming for me, like they were waiting. I locked every window 3 times, checked the front door lock again and again. My hands were raw from twisting the knob. I pulled the blinds down tight. I felt like I was living in a cage of my own making, but it felt like the only safe place, the only way to keep the world out. The knife drawer in the kitchen was always open. I kept it that way, like I needed to be ready for something, for anything. I needed to know where it was, just in case they came back, just in case I needed to fight. I checked under my bed like a child, every night, before I got into bed, just to be sure, to make sure no one was hiding. My heart would pound as I bent down, my breath would catch, I'd hold it until I saw nothing. Just dust bunnies. I stopped eating. Food tasted like ash in my mouth. My clothes started to hang loose on my body. I felt weak all the time. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger, pale, with dark circles under my eyes. Empty. A ghost of myself. My eyes were sunken. My hair was messy. I didn't care. Nothing mattered anymore. Nothing at all. Then, one night, I started walking again, but not during the day, only at night, when the streets were empty, when no one could see me, when the world was asleep. I walked in circles, around the apartment building, down empty streets, past shuttered stores. The streetlights cast long, strange shadows. The air was cold on my face. It felt good, the cold. It was real. It was something I could feel, something that cut through the numbness. I retraced our steps again and again, not just in the park, but on the sidewalks, through the quiet neighborhoods. I walked for hours. My feet ached. My mind raced. I was trying to find the second when everything could have changed, the exact moment, the one I could go back to fix it, to save him, trying to make sense of something that never would, something that had no sense to it at all, just pure, senseless violence. It ate at me every single day. One night, I found myself back at Grayline Park. It was 2:15 a.m. The air was cold and still, no moon in the sky, just a dead sky, and the dark silhouettes of trees against it. They looked like bony fingers reaching up. I walked in anyway. My feet moved on their own, like they knew where they were going, like they were pulled by a string. I don't know why. Maybe part of me thought I'd see him there. Maybe I wanted to feel close to him again, to hear his voice. Maybe I just wanted it to end, to find some peace, to feel something other than this cold emptiness, this constant ache. The trail felt different now, darker. Even when the streetlights from the town cast a faint glow, it felt heavy with memory. Every tree seemed to watch me. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist. The air itself felt thick with sorrow. My feet knew every step, every dip in the path, every root hidden under the leaves. It was burned into my memory. Then I saw it, the place, the exact spot, where he fell, where he took his last breath, where my life ended too. Blood had long since been washed away, by rain, by time, but I could still see it, in my mind, a dark stain. It was burned into my eyelids. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, the red, spreading, the dark flower. I dropped to my knees. The cold ground seeped into my pants. I just sat there, frozen, my body rigid. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just stared at the empty spot, wishing, hoping, for anything. I stayed there until the sun rose, until the first birds started to sing, until the world woke up around me, until the first joggers came. They looked at me strangely, a man sitting alone in the dirt. I didn't care. Their footsteps crunched on the path. Their voices were soft. They didn't understand. They couldn't. I remember thinking, this is where I died too, right here, next to him. My old self was gone, buried with him. Eventually, the cops found the men. It was months later. The news came on TV. My heart leaped, a strange mix of feelings, hope, anger, a cold, hard satisfaction, but mostly just a dull ache. They had hit 3 other couples. One of those couples hadn't survived either. Just like Zach, it wasn't just us. The news report said they were caught far away, in another state. The tall one was killed in a standoff with the police. He fought back. He didn't want to be caught. He went down fighting. A part of me felt a cold satisfaction, a dark, ugly feeling. But it was there. He got what he deserved, or at least a part of it. The other one, the wiry one, he turned himself in. He claimed it wasn't supposed to go that far, that it was an accident. He cried on the stand during the trial. He said he wasn't like that. He looked scared. He looked weak. He looked like a coward. But I didn't cry. Not a single tear. My eyes were dry. My heart was still frozen solid. It felt like stone. I testified. My hands were shaking so bad I had to grip the railing. My throat was dry. My voice was monotone, flat, like I was reading from a script. I told the story like it wasn't even mine, like it happened to someone else, someone I didn't know. Every word was a struggle, every memory a fresh wound. But I kept going. I looked at the wiry one. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the floor. He looked small. When the verdict came, people clapped. They cheered. They looked relieved. Justice, they called it. But I didn't feel relief. Just emptiness. A vast, hollow space inside me. It didn't bring him back. It didn't make the pain go away. It just meant the legal part was over. The world could move on, but I couldn't. It meant the newspapers would stop writing about it. The TV would stop showing their faces. But it didn't stop anything for me. Now it's been 2 years, 2 long, empty years. I moved out of Eileen's. I couldn't stay there. Every corner held a memory, every street a ghost. I needed to escape. I needed a fresh start. Got a job somewhere quiet, far away. A small town, no one knows me here. And I like it that way. I don't talk to people much. I keep to myself. It's easier that way. Less chance of getting hurt. Less chance of having to explain. Less chance of having to remember. The silence is my friend now. I still sleep with the lights on. Every single night. The fear never truly leaves. It just hides. In the shadows. Waiting. Waiting for me to let my guard down. Waiting to jump out. It's always there. A cold knot in my stomach. I don't visit the park anymore. Any park. The thought of it makes me feel sick. I avoid all wooded trails. The sight of trees too close together makes my heart pound. The smell of pine makes me dizzy. I can't breathe. But I kept Zach's notebook. The leather-bound one. It's worn now. The cover is soft from my hands touching it. It's stained in places. From tears, maybe. Or just from being carried around so much. It's my last link to him. I keep it on my nightstand, right next to my bed. It's the first thing I see when I wake up, the last thing I see before I sleep. But I still read it, almost every night. His words, his thoughts, his dreams, they are all I have left. I trace his handwriting with my finger. I try to hear his voice in my head, to remember how he sounded, his laugh, the way he'd clear his throat before saying something important, the way he'd hum sometimes. One page haunts me the most. I read it over and over. His handwriting was neat and strong. He'd written, "No matter what happens, I want to walk that trail with you forever. Forever." The word felt like a cruel joke now, a promise broken, a dream shattered. Sometimes I close my eyes. I pretend I'm back there, before it happened, before the darkness, just us, walking, laughing, holding hands, before knives, before screams, before everything changed, before loss rewired my brain, before it made the world feel like a trap I can't escape. And sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I hear footsteps behind me on the trail, even when I'm not near a trail, even when I'm in my apartment. A soft crunching sound, like leaves under someone's feet. My breath catches in my throat. My heart pounds. I turn around fast, my eyes darting, searching. But when I turn, there's no one there. Just the empty space behind me. Just the quiet room. Just the path, stretching endlessly forward. And the sound of my own breathing. Alone. Always alone. But the footsteps, They never truly stop. They follow me, everywhere I go. A constant reminder of what I lost, of what I can never get back. They are the sound of my fear, the sound of my guilt, the sound of a life that ended that night. And I know, deep down, they will never stop. Not until I stop breathing, too. Some fears don't crawl out of shadows. They don't hide in the dark woods. Sometimes they just sit across from you at a coffee shop. They smile, they sip their coffee, and they remember things that never, ever happened. I met her on a Thursday. It was just a normal day, nothing special at all. No dating apps, no friends setting us up, just a chair across from mine at Greywater Cafe. I went there every night after work. I liked to write in my journal. It was my quiet time. I was easy to read, I guess. Quiet, tired. My shoulders were always slumped, and I really loved peppermint tea. It was my little habit. She asked if she could sit down. Her voice was soft but strong. She said all the other tables were full. She had this strange charm. It was like I'd seen her before, but I knew I hadn't, like a feeling of déjà vu. I said yes, of course. There was no reason to say no. Her name was Kara. She told me right away. We started talking. She asked about my job. She asked about my hobbies. She even asked about my writing. She listened like no one ever does, like my words were really important to her. An hour went by. I didn't even touch my tea. It just sat there getting cold. Then she smiled. She reached her hand across the table. "It's good to see you again," she said. Her voice was still soft. My brain just stopped. It stuttered. "Again?" I asked her. She nodded. She looked at me like I was joking. "It's been a while," she said. "Since the lake house," she added. "Since that weekend you made French toast." I didn't know what to say. My mouth felt dry. I had never been to a lake house. I had never made French toast for anyone, not ever in my whole life. She laughed a little. It was a soft sound. She waved her hand like it was nothing. "I get it," she said, playing coy. "You're always like this at first." She left soon after that, but she hugged me before she went. "Don't be a stranger this time," she said. Then she was gone. I just sat there for another whole hour. I tried to figure things out. Had I lost time? Did I have some kind of blackout? But I knew I hadn't. I knew my life. I knew every part of it. Like I knew my own messy handwriting. I had never ever met Kara before. This was the first time. The next week, she showed up again. 5 more times, actually. It was always casual, always like she just happened to be there. Each time she talked about things. Trips we never took. Music we never danced to. Even pets I never owned. A big, fluffy dog named Buster. A small striped cat named Mittens. And each time I told her she had the wrong guy. I told her I didn't know her. She just smiled. It was a calm, knowing smile. "You're doing it again," she'd say, pretending we don't exist. It started to feel really weird. More than just weird, it felt wrong. I started looking things up. I searched her name online, but it was like she wasn't real. Like she didn't exist anywhere. No digital trail, no friends on social media, no photos, no accounts, nothing. I even asked people in town, the coffee shop owner, the lady at the dry cleaner. No one had seen her, no one knew her. Only me. Then she started showing up outside my apartment. This was different. She would stand across the street at night, just stand there. She never moved. She just watched my building, watched my window. The worst part was when I got home from work one day. My apartment smelled like peppermint tea. It was a strong smell, like someone had just brewed a fresh cup. And there, on my bed, was a folded note. It was neat and small. "Thanks for the French toast," it said. "This time, don't forget the lake." My windows were locked tight. My door showed no signs of being broken. But she had been there, inside my home. I called the police. They came. They looked around. They found nothing, no forced entry, no fingerprints. They said maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was just stressed. But I hadn't. I knew what I smelled. I knew what I saw. I tried to talk to her about it. The next time she came to the cafe, I went up to her. I told her I was done. I told her she needed help. I told her I didn't know her at all. Her smile slowly disappeared. It just dropped from her face. "You said that last time too," she whispered. Her voice was low. "Before everything fell apart," she added. "Before the fire." "What fire?" I asked. My voice was shaky. She didn't answer me. She just turned and left the cafe. That night, my dreams were thick with smoke. I felt it in my lungs. I woke up choking. My heart was beating so fast. I heard fire alarms. They were blaring from the building across the street. It was a small kitchen fire. Nothing big. But it felt like something had followed me right out of my sleep. I had to move. I just had to get away. I left Greywater. I found a new city. I got a new job there. I thought I was safe. I thought it was over. But last week, it happened. Someone left a cup of peppermint tea on my porch. There was no note this time, no knock on the door. Just the smell. That sweet, minty smell. And a whisper. I couldn't prove I heard it. It was so faint. The lake remembers. I don't know what Kara is. Is she a stalker? Is she just a crazy person? Is she a delusion? Am I losing my mind? Or is she a warning? But I know one thing for sure. Whatever she is, she truly believes we had a life together. And I'm starting to get really, really scared. I'm starting to fear that maybe, in some other world, some other thread of reality, I did too. The teacup sat there for a whole day. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it. It was white ceramic, plain, just like the cups at Greywater Cafe. I picked it up with a paper towel. I didn't want to touch it with my bare hands. I threw it in the trash can outside. I wanted it gone. But the smell, it stayed. It hung in the air around my porch. It was in my nose. It was in my head. I kept looking over my shoulder every time I went outside, every car that slowed down, every person walking by. My new apartment felt less like a home now. It felt like a trap. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence. Someone just left a cup. Maybe a neighbor, maybe a delivery person. But the smell, and that whisper. The lake remembers. It felt so real. I started sleeping with the lights on. I know it sounds silly. A grown man, scared of the dark. But it wasn't the dark. It was what might be in the dark, or what memories might come back. I started checking my locks 3 times, 4 times. I bought new locks, heavy, strong ones. I put a bar across my sliding glass door. I felt like I was building a fort against something I couldn't see, against something that might not even be real, but it felt real. It felt very real. One night I was trying to read, my favorite old book, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept darting to the window. I thought I saw a shadow move, just a flicker. I jumped up. I pulled back the curtain. Nothing, just the streetlights, just the empty street. My heart was pounding. It was always pounding now. I felt like I was living inside a drum. I started to think about the lake house, the one Kara talked about. I tried to picture it. What would it look like? Would it be old? Would it have a big porch? I tried to remember making French toast. What kind of pan would I use? Would it be a sunny morning? Who would be there? These thoughts scared me more than anything, because they felt like my own, like I was trying to remember something I really had forgotten. I shook my head. No, this was her. This was Kara. She was putting these thoughts in my head. She was messing with me. I decided to go back, not to Greywater, but to the area. I needed to see if there was a lake house, a real one. Maybe it was just a place she knew, a place she used to live. I took a few days off work. I drove a long way. The drive felt heavy, like I was going to a place I shouldn't go. I found the town. It was small, just like I remembered. I drove around. I looked for a lake. It took a while, but I found one. It was pretty big. There were houses all around it, some old, some new. I drove slowly. My eyes scanned every house. I was looking for something that felt familiar. I didn't know what I was looking for. A feeling? A memory? Then I saw it. A small old house, right by the water. It had a big wraparound porch and a little dock. My breath caught in my throat. It felt familiar. Too familiar. I pulled my car over. I just stared at it. It was old. The paint was peeling. It looked empty. I got out of the car. My legs felt shaky. I walked closer to the house. The grass was long. I stood at the edge of the property. I looked at the porch. I could almost see myself there, drinking coffee, making French toast. The smell of cinnamon. No, stop it. This wasn't real. This was her trick. I walked around the side of the house. I looked in the windows. Empty rooms. Dust everywhere. It looked like no one had lived there in years. But then I saw something. On the kitchen counter. A small white ceramic cup. Just like the one on my porch. My stomach dropped. It felt like a cold stone. It was too much. Too much of a coincidence. I backed away from the house. I got back in my car. I drove away fast. I didn't look back. I drove all the way home that day. I didn't stop. My mind was racing. What did it mean? Was it her house? Did she live there? Or was it our house? In some other life? I felt sick. My head hurt. When I got home, I just sat in the dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want to think anymore. But the thoughts kept coming, like waves crashing. The lake house, the French toast, Kara's smile. I started to wonder if I was going crazy, really crazy. Maybe the police were right. Maybe I was imagining things, but the cup was real. I had seen it. I tried to distract myself. I turned on the TV, but I couldn't focus. The words blurred. I kept seeing her face, her eyes. She looked so kind, so normal, but she wasn't normal. Not at all. Days turned into weeks. I didn't see Kara. I didn't get any more teacups. No more whispers. I started to feel a little better. A tiny bit. Maybe she had given up. Maybe she had moved on. I tried to go back to my old routine, my journal, my work, but it wasn't the same. Everything felt different now. I felt like a crack had formed in my world, and I was always waiting for it to break open. One morning, I woke up with a strange feeling, not fear, not sadness, just emptiness. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. My face looked tired. My eyes looked hollow. But then I saw it. A small scar. Above my eyebrow. I didn't remember getting that scar. I touched it. It was old. Faded. I tried to think. When did I get this? Nothing. No memory. Just a blank space. It was just a small scar. People get scars all the time. But it felt important. Like a missing piece. I went to work. I tried to focus. But all I could think about was the scar and the lake house and Kara. Was this another one of her tricks? Was she making me forget things? Or was I really remembering something that was hidden? That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there. My mind was racing. I felt like I was losing control. I needed answers. I needed to know what was happening. I got out of bed. I went to my computer. I typed in amnesia and false memories. I read article after article. It all sounded so confusing. But then I saw something. A forum. People talking about strange experiences. About feeling like they had lived another life. About meeting people who claimed to know them. But they didn't. I read one story. A man said he met a woman. She told him they were married. She knew details about his life. But he had never seen her before. He said he started to feel like he was going crazy. Just like me. I felt a chill go through me. This was too close. I kept reading. The man said he started to have dreams. Dreams that felt real. Dreams of a life with the woman. And then he started to remember things. Little things. A favorite song. A certain smell. A place. He said it felt like two lives were fighting inside his head, his real life and the other one. I closed my laptop. My hands were shaking. This was exactly what was happening to me. The dreams, the feelings of familiarity, the scar. I felt a new kind of fear now, not just fear of Kara, but fear of myself, fear of what I might be forgetting, or what I might be remembering. The next day, I went to a doctor, a brain doctor. I told him everything. About Kara, about the lake house, about the teacups, about the dreams. He listened carefully. He asked a lot of questions. He did some tests, memory tests, brain scans. He said everything looked normal. My brain was fine. He said maybe it was stress or a very vivid delusion. He suggested I see a therapist, someone to talk to. I left his office feeling worse, not better. He didn't believe me. He thought I was making it up, or that I was crazy. I went home. I felt so alone. No one understood. No one could help me, except maybe Kara. The thought scared me, but it was there. Maybe she had the answers. Maybe she knew what was happening. I knew I shouldn't. But I decided to go back to Greywater Cafe. I sat at our old table. I ordered peppermint tea. I waited. And I waited. She didn't come. I went back the next day, and the next. Still nothing. It was like she had disappeared again. But this time, I didn't feel relief. I felt lost. I wanted her to show up. I wanted her to tell me more. I wanted to understand. A few days later, I was walking home from work. It was getting dark. The streetlights were flickering on. I heard a sound, a soft humming sound. I stopped. I looked around. It was coming from an alleyway, a dark, narrow alley. I slowly walked towards it. My heart was pounding. I peeked around the corner. She was there, Kara. She was sitting on a small wooden crate. She was humming a tune, a lullaby. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful. I just stood there, watching her. She opened her eyes. She looked right at me. She smiled. It was the same gentle smile. "You came back," she said. Her voice was soft. "I needed to know," I said. My voice was shaky. "Know what?" she asked. She tilted her head. "About the fire," I said. "And the lake house. And us." She looked at me for a long moment. Her smile faded a little. "You really don't remember, do you?" she whispered. "No," I said. "I don't. But I want to." She stood up. She walked towards me. "It's hard," she said, "to remember things that were taken from you." "Taken?" I asked. "What do you mean?" She reached out her hand. She touched my scar. "This," she said. "This is where it started. The fire," she continued. "It took everything. Our memories, our home. It was a long time ago," she said. "You were hurt, very badly." "They told you it was an accident," she said. "A kitchen fire, but it wasn't." "It was him," she whispered. "He did it." "Who?" I asked. My mind was spinning. "The man who lived next door," she said. "He was angry. He wanted the land. He set the fire," she said. "And you almost died. They saved you," she continued. "But your memories, they were gone. They told me you would never remember," she said. "They told me to move on. But I couldn't," she said. "I waited. I searched for you. And then I found you," she said. "Here, at Greywater Dot." I stared at her. My head was throbbing. It sounded crazy, like a movie. But it also sounded right. It explained everything. The missing memories, the fire, the lake house, the feeling that something was wrong. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I asked. "I tried," she said. "So many times. But you always pushed me away. You always said I was crazy. You always forgot again." "Again?" I asked. "This happened before?" She nodded slowly. "Many times," she said. "Every time you started to remember, they would find you. They would take you away, and they would make you forget again." "Who are they?" I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. "The people who helped him," she said. "The ones who covered it up. They don't want you to remember. They want you to stay forgotten." I looked at her. Her eyes were sad. "So you're not a stalker?" I asked. She shook her head. "I'm your wife," she said. "Or I was. Before." My breath hitched. My wife? It was too much, too fast, but something in my gut, something deep inside me. It felt like a key turning in a lock. I looked at her, really looked at her, and then a flash, a quick image. French toast, in a bright kitchen, sunlight streaming in, her laugh, a warm, happy sound. It was so quick, like a dream, but it was there. "The lake remembers," she whispered again. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. "We have to go back," she said, "to the lake house. We have to find proof, before they find us again." I nodded. I didn't know why, but I trusted her. I trusted this stranger who said she was my wife. We got in my car. We drove all night, back to the lake, back to the old house. The sun was just coming up when we got there. The house looked different now. Not empty. It looked like it was waiting for us. We walked up to the porch. The door was unlocked. We went inside. The air was dusty, but it felt warm. It felt like home. We walked through the rooms. Kara pointed things out. "This was our living room," she said. "We had a big, comfy couch here." "And this was the kitchen," she said, "where you made French toast." I looked at the counter. The white ceramic cup was still there, but now, next to it, was a small wooden box. I hadn't seen it before. I opened the box. Inside were old photos, photos of me and Kara, smiling, laughing, holding hands, at the lake, on the porch, making French toast. My heart ached. It was real, all of it. I picked up a photo. It was me, with a big fluffy dog, Buster. Another photo, a small striped cat, Mittens. Tears welled up in my eyes. It was all true. I remembered now. Not everything, but pieces. The warmth of her hand, the smell of the lake, the taste of French toast. "They tried to take it all," Kara said. Her voice was soft, "but they couldn't take it from my heart." We spent the day there, remembering. She told me more stories about our life, about the fire, and the man next door. His name was Mr. Thorne. He wanted our land. He thought we wouldn't sell, so he tried to scare us away. He set the fire. He thought we would die, but we didn't. We got out. I was hurt, very badly, my head. The doctor said I would never remember, and the people who helped Mr. Thorne, they made sure of it. They kept finding me. Every time I started to remember, they would take me and make me forget again. It was like a nightmare, living the same story over and over. But now I was awake. We decided to stay at the lake house for a while. We cleaned it up. We made it feel like home again. Every day more memories came back, like little pieces of a puzzle, fitting together. I remembered our wedding day, her white dress. I remembered our first Christmas in the house. I remembered falling in love with her. It was beautiful and painful to know I had lost so much time, so many memories. But to have them back, even just some of them, it was everything. One evening, we were sitting on the porch. The sun was setting over the lake. It was peaceful. It felt safe. Then we heard a car, driving slowly down the road. It stopped, down the street. A black car, dark windows. My heart started to pound. Kara squeezed my hand. "They found us," she whispered. "We knew this would happen. We had talked about it. We had a plan. We went inside. We locked the door. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and we had the truth. We waited. The car just sat there. Then the door opened. A man got out. He was big, dressed in a dark suit. He started walking towards our house, slowly, like he owned the place. He came up to the porch. He knocked on the door, loudly. 3 hard knocks. We didn't answer. We just stood there, holding hands, breathing. He knocked again, harder this time. "We know you're in there," he said. His voice was deep. "You can't hide forever." Kara looked at me. Her eyes were strong. "We're not hiding," she said. Her voice was steady. She walked to the window. She pulled back the curtain. She looked right at him. He looked surprised. He didn't expect her to do that. "We remember everything," she said. Her voice was clear. "And we're not forgetting again." He stared at her. His face was hard. Then he turned. He walked back to his car. He got in, and he drove away. We watched him go, until his car was just a tiny dot. Then it was gone. We looked at each other. We smiled. It wasn't over. We knew that. But we had faced them. And we hadn't broken. We had our memories. We had our truth. And we had each other. The next day, we went to the police. We told them everything. About Mr. Thorne. About the fire. About the men who made me forget. We showed them the photos. We told them our story. They listened. This time, they believed us. It was a long process, a lot of talking, a lot of proof. But in the end, Mr. Thorne was caught, and the people who helped him, they were caught too. Justice was slow, but it came. We stayed at the lake house. We rebuilt our life, piece by piece, memory by memory. It wasn't easy. There were still gaps, still things I couldn't remember. But Kara was there. She helped me. She filled in the blanks. She reminded me. We planted a garden. We fixed the dock. We bought new furniture. We made it our home again. Sometimes I still smelled peppermint tea, but now it was a good smell, a comforting smell. It was the smell of home, the smell of her, and the lake. The lake remembered everything. It remembered the fire. It remembered the pain, but it also remembered our love, our life, and it held it safe for us, until we could remember too. I look at Kara now. She's sitting across from me, not in a cafe, but on our porch. She's smiling. She's sipping her coffee. And she's remembering things, real things, things that happened, things we shared. And I'm remembering them too. We are no longer afraid. We are no longer lost. We are home. We are whole. And we are together. I was 12 when I met Liam. It was the summer before 7th grade, and the air felt thick and hot. All the kids in our neighborhood were outside, riding their bikes or throwing a football around. I was usually just kicking a soccer ball against my garage door, all by myself. I didn't have many friends back then. Most kids thought I was too quiet, maybe a little weird. Then Liam moved in. He came to the old house at the very end of Maple Street. That house had cracked windows and a porch that always looked like it was about to fall apart. Liam was tall for his age, with black hair that was always messy, like he'd just rolled out of bed. His eyes were something else. They seemed to look right through you, like he knew what you were thinking. I was doing my usual thing, kicking the ball, when he just walked up. His hands were in his pockets, and he just stood there watching me. "Hey," he said. Like we'd known each other forever. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp in it, like he was testing me. "Want to hang out?" I just shrugged. "Sure," I said. I was surprised. Nobody ever asked me to hang out. Liam didn't seem to care that I was quiet. He didn't seem to care that I was weird. That was the very start of everything. That was the summer Liam came into my life. We spent that whole summer together. Our favorite place was the woods right behind our houses. Those woods were super thick, with tall pine trees that blocked out the sun. It made everything feel cooler and much quieter in there. Liam loved it. He'd climb trees way up high, jump over the little creeks, and talk about ghosts and monsters. "You ever think something's watching you out here?" he'd ask, and he'd grin. I'd try to laugh it off, but his words always stuck with me, especially when the wind made the branches creak and groan. It made the woods feel like they were alive, listening to us. One hot afternoon, we found an old shed deep in those woods. It was really falling apart, with rusty hinges on the door and boards that looked like they'd just collapse if you touched them. Liam's eyes lit up when he saw it. "This is our spot now," he said, like he'd found treasure. Inside, it smelled like old, damp wood and something else. something sour. There were dusty jars on shelves, a broken chair, and a cracked mirror leaning against one wall. I didn't like it in there. It felt wrong. But Liam, he was obsessed. He'd sit for hours, carving strange shapes into the dirt floor with a stick. "This place has secrets," he'd say. I didn't know what he meant by that, but I never asked. I just watched him, feeling a little chill even on a hot day. It was our secret place, and it felt like it had its own secrets too. Liam was fun to be around, but he could also be really mean. Not to me, not at first. But to other kids, he was different. He'd tease them until they cried, or trip them when no one was looking. Sometimes he'd hide their stuff and then laugh when they got really mad. I'd tell him to stop, but he'd just shrug. "They're weak," he'd say, like it was a simple fact. "You're not like them." I never knew if that was a compliment or not, but it made me feel special. It made me feel like I was different, like I mattered to him in a way I didn't matter to anyone else. It was a strange feeling, being picked out by Liam. When school started, things got even weirder. Liam didn't fit in at all. He'd sit by himself at lunch, just staring at people like he was trying to figure them out. I'd sit with him, but it felt like he was pulling me away from everyone else. If I talked to other kids, even just for a second, he'd get quiet. His eyes would get narrow, like he was mad. One time I was joking with my friend Tommy in the hall. We were just laughing about something dumb. Liam came up and grabbed my arm. He grabbed it hard. "Why are you wasting time with him?" he hissed. His grip really hurt, but I didn't say anything. I just stopped talking to Tommy after that. It was easier that way. The shed became our hideout, more than ever. Liam started bringing strange things there. Candles, matches, and this big knife he said he found in his dad's garage. He'd light the candles, and their flames would flicker, making the shadows dance. He'd talk about weird stuff, like how shadows could move all by themselves, or how the woods weren't safe at night. "You ever hear voices out here?" he asked one evening. The sun was going down, and the woods were getting dark. I hadn't, but the way he said it made my skin feel all prickly. The shed felt smaller then, like the walls were closing in on us. It wasn't a fun place anymore. One night, Liam really wanted to stay late. The air was getting chilly, and the woods were super dark. It was the kind of dark that makes you feel like someone is watching you from behind every tree. I wanted to go home so bad, but Liam wouldn't move. He just sat there. "Don't be a baby," he said, and he lit another candle. The little flame flickered, throwing big, creepy shadows all over the shed walls. He pulled out that knife again and started carving something into the dirt floor. I asked him what it was. "Just a mark," he said, not looking up. "To keep things out." I didn't like how he said it. It was like he knew something I didn't, something scary. He was acting like he was protecting us from something, but I didn't know what. It made my stomach feel all twisted up. That's when I really started noticing things. Little things at first. Shadows in the shed that didn't look like they came from the candlelight. They moved on their own. And noises in the woods, like soft whispers or footsteps. But when I looked, there was never anything there. Liam acted like it was totally normal. "The woods are alive," he'd say, and he'd smile. But his smile wasn't friendly anymore. It was like he was hiding something, or like he was part of the secret. It made me feel cold, even when it was warm. Then the nightmares started. In my dreams, I was always in the shed, but it was huge. It was like a big, dark maze. Liam was there, but he wasn't Liam. His eyes were totally black, and his voice was all wrong. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once, echoing around me. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart beating super fast. I wanted to tell my mom about it, but I knew what she'd say. She'd just say I was imagining things, or that I watched too many scary movies. Besides, Liam was my only friend. I didn't want to lose him, even if he was getting scary. One day at school, Liam got into big trouble. He'd pushed a kid named Ryan down the stairs. Ryan broke his arm, and everyone was talking about it. The teachers were mad. Liam didn't seem sorry at all. "He deserved it," he told me later, his voice cold and flat. I asked him why Ryan deserved it, but he just laughed. That's when I started feeling truly scared of him. Not just nervous, but really, deeply scared. Like he wasn't the same kid I had met that summer. It felt like someone else was inside him, or that he was changing into something else. I tried to stay away from the shed after that. I really did, but Liam wouldn't let me. "You're coming," he'd say, and his voice left no room for arguing, so I'd go, even though my stomach would twist into knots every single time. The shed felt like a magnet pulling me in. One night he brought a book to the shed. It was really old, with a dark leather cover that looked worn and cracked. The pages inside looked like they'd crumble into dust if you just touched them. He said he found it in the attic of his new house. "This is real," he whispered, his eyes wide. He opened the book. The pages had strange drawings, circles and lines and shapes that just hurt my eyes to look at. They didn't make sense. He started reading something out loud, words I didn't understand. It sounded like a chant, a low humming sound. The air in the shed got heavy, like it was hard to breathe. "Stop it," I said, my voice shaking so bad I almost couldn't hear it. Liam looked at me, his eyes wide and shining in the candlelight. "You feel that, don't you?" he said. I didn't know what he meant, but I felt something. It was like the shed was watching us, like it was alive and breathing. I ran out of there, my heart racing like a drum. I didn't stop until I was all the way home. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I put a chair under the doorknob just in case. I was so scared. The nightmares got even worse after that night. In them, Liam was always there, but he was different. He was taller, much darker. His voice echoed, saying my name over and over again. But it wasn't his voice. It was deep and wrong, like it came from inside my head. I'd wake up and rush to check my window, half expecting to see him standing outside. Sometimes, I really thought I heard him whispering in the dark, right outside my window. But when I turned on the light, no one was there. Just the dark trees and the quiet street. It made me feel crazy. I stopped going to the shed completely. I told Liam I was busy, that I had too much homework, or that my mom needed me. But he knew I was avoiding him. He'd wait for me after school, his eyes hard and cold. "You're not like them," he'd say. "You're my friend." But it didn't feel like friendship anymore. It felt like a trap, like I was caught. One night, I woke up to a tapping on my window. It was a soft sound at first, then it got louder. I knew it was him. It was Liam, standing in my yard, his face pale in the moonlight. He looked like a ghost. "Come on," he whispered through the glass. "We gotta finish it." I shook my head, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. He tapped harder, his nails scratching the glass, making a horrible sound. "You can't run," he said. His voice wasn't his. It was deeper, wrong, like the voice in my nightmares. I pulled the curtain shut fast and hid under my blanket, praying he would just go away. The next day, I told my mom I was sick. I stayed home from school. I just didn't want to see Liam. But he came to my house anyway. My mom let him in, thinking he was just my friend, checking on me. He walked into my room and sat on my bed, just staring at me. "You're scared," he said, and he smiled like it was funny. "You shouldn't be. It's just the woods." I wanted to scream that it wasn't just the woods, that something was terribly wrong with him, that he wasn't Liam anymore, but I couldn't. My voice was gone. I just lay there, frozen. That night, I heard the tapping again. I didn't look. I just lay there in my bed, frozen stiff, listening to the scratches on the glass. They stopped after a while, but I didn't sleep. Not a wink. The next morning, my mom told me Liam's family had moved away. Just like that. No one knew where they went. The house on Maple Street was empty again, the windows dark and staring. I thought it was over. I really did. I thought I was finally free. But the nightmares didn't stop. And sometimes, when I walked by the woods, I'd hear it. A whisper, soft and low, calling my name. It sounded like Liam's voice, but not quite. It was like the voice from my dreams. I never went back to the shed. I couldn't. The thought of it made my skin crawl, but I knew it was still there, deep in the woods, waiting for something or someone, and I knew it was still watching. A few weeks later, I finally worked up the courage to tell my older cousin, Matt, about everything. Matt is in high school and he's not scared of anything. He said he'd check out the shed with me, just to prove that it was nothing, just an old shed. I didn't want to go, but I also didn't want to be alone with that feeling anymore. We went on a sunny afternoon when the woods didn't feel so heavy and dark. The shed was still there, but it looked different, smaller, less alive somehow. The door was open, swinging slowly in the breeze like it was inviting us in. Inside, the candles were gone, the knife was gone too, but the book was still there, lying in the corner, its strange pages open. Matt picked it up. "Put it down!" I yelled at him, my voice cracking. He just laughed, but then he stopped. His face went pale, like he'd seen a ghost. "What is this?" he whispered, pointing at the dirt floor. The shapes Liam had carved were still there, but they looked deeper now, like they'd been burned into the wood. And in the cracked mirror, I saw something move. Just for a second, like a shadow that wasn't ours, a dark shape that flickered and was gone. We ran. We didn't stop until we were out of the woods and back on the street. Matt didn't laugh after that. He told me to stay away from the woods, and I listened. I really did. But I couldn't stop thinking about Liam. Where did he go? Was he okay? Or was he something else now? I didn't know, and that was the worst part, not knowing. Years passed, and I tried so hard to forget. I made new friends, I played soccer, I tried to act like a normal kid. But every single time I walked by the woods, my heart would race. I'd hear whispers in the wind, see shadows that didn't belong just out of the corner of my eye. I told myself it was just my imagination. I told myself I was being silly. But deep down, I knew better. Liam was gone, but he'd left something behind. Something in the shed. Something in me. A cold, dark feeling that never really went away. I'm older now, a grown man, but I still dream about him. In the dreams, he's standing in the shed, holding that old book, smiling that sharp, unsettling smile. "You're my friend," he says, but his voice is wrong. It's like it's coming from the walls, the floor, the air all around me. It fills the whole space. I wake up gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. I check my window, my door, just like I did when I was a kid. I tell myself it's just a dream. It's just a dream. But sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear it. A soft tap on the glass, a whisper in the dark, my name. And I wonder if I'll ever truly be free from Liam, and from the woods, and from that awful shed. I wonder if it will ever really be over. My 17th summer was a real drag, a really big drag actually. My aunt, she thought she was helping me out. She thought she was being super smart. So she dragged me all the way across the country, to New Mexico. It was for some artist place, like a summer camp basically, but just for teens who like to draw. Phoenix, my home, felt a million miles away from me, like another planet almost. A world I used to know. She called it finding my muse. That's like a fancy word. It means something that makes you want to create, a thing that gives you ideas. But all I saw was sand, just endless sand. It stretched out forever, like a big flat yellow ocean, and some dry, prickly bushes. They looked like they were barely alive, small, tough plants, all shriveled up. It was just empty out there. So much space, it felt too big, too quiet for me. The artist place was a bunch of small, mud-colored houses. They called them adobe huts. They looked like they grew right out of the dirt, like they were part of the ground. There was no internet there, not even a little bit of it. No TV, no video games either. Nothing to distract me at all. Just a blank book for drawing, and my watercolor paints. They sat there, looking so bright, all those colors against the dusty floor. And the sun. Man, that sun was always there. It just beat down on everything, like a giant hot eye. It watched me all the time. I really, really didn't want to be there, not one bit. I missed my friends back home. I missed my own bed, my own room, everything familiar, everything that felt safe. I missed the smell of my own house, the noise of my street. The first few days were the worst. I just sat around, grumpy, kicking at the dust. I felt like a prisoner, trapped in a giant sand pit, with nothing to do. The air was hot and dry. It felt like it sucked all the water right out of me. My lips were always chapped. My skin felt tight. Even the shadows felt hot. There was no escape from the sun. I watched the other kids. They seemed to like it. They laughed and painted outside. They talked about colors and light. I just wanted to go home. Every single day. I wrote letters to my friends, but there was no mail to send them. Just a dusty road. I felt so alone, like I was the only one who hated it, the only one who missed everything. But then, after a few days, something changed. It was slow, like the sun moving across the sky. I started to look around. Really look. The place was super pretty. In a weird way, you know? Not like a city pretty. It was a wild kind of beautiful, big, sharp mountain stuck up in the distance. They looked like giant teeth, or maybe broken glass, so sharp and dark. They changed colors as the day went on. From dusty brown to purple to deep blue, the sky turned purple at night, a deep, dark purple that went on forever. It had tiny, bright stars, more stars than I had ever seen before, like spilled glitter. So many of them. They seemed to hang so close, like I could almost reach out and touch them. The air got cool at night, a nice, soft cool. It felt good on my skin. The quiet started to feel okay, even nice, sometimes. A peaceful kind of hum. It sort of got inside you, like a quiet feeling, way down deep. It wasn't so bad after a bit. I started drawing the mountains, their sharp edges, the way the light hit them. I drew the dry bushes, how tough they looked, how they held on to life. I even drew the dust, the way it swirled in the wind, like tiny dancing clouds. The third day, we went on a walk. Our group, I mean. There were about 10 of us kids. We were going to a slot canyon. It's like a big crack in the ground, a giant split in the earth. Clara, our guide, told us about it. She said it was made by water carving rock. It was hard to imagine water here. Everything was so dry, so thirsty. The walls were super tall. They went up and up, way over our heads. Like giant stone curtains. They blocked out most of the sky. Just a thin strip of blue above. The sun made them glow. They looked like fire at noon, bright orange and red. Our guide was a skinny lady. Her name was Clara. She had a loud voice. It bounced off the canyon walls. She told us to stay close to her. She said the canyon twists a lot, like a snake. Even old hikers get lost in there. It was easy to get turned around. All the turns looked the same, one after another. She told us stories about people getting lost, how the canyon could trick you, how it could swallow sounds, make you feel small. I listened, but I wasn't really scared. Not yet. I was at the very back of the line. I had my sketch pad out. I was drawing the shadows. They made cool shapes on the rocks, like dancing monsters, or spooky faces. They moved as the sun shifted, like they were alive. Everyone else was talking. Their voices bounced off the canyon walls. They got softer and softer. Then they just faded away, like they were swallowed by the rock. The sound just died. I didn't even notice at first. I was too busy drawing, too focused on the lines. I was bent down low. I was drawing a spiral. It was cut into the stone. It looked really old, like a whisper from a long, long time ago. A secret carved into the earth, a message from the past. I traced its lines with my pencil, lost in my own world. The rock felt cool under my fingers, smooth and old, like ancient skin. A little breeze snaked through the canyon. It felt like a cold finger tracing my neck. When I looked up, they were gone. My stomach dropped. It felt like a cold rock had just landed inside me. A shiver ran up my back, quick and sharp. Just like that, I was alone. The canyon walls felt taller now, closer, like they were leaning in on me. The light seemed to dim even more. The air felt thick, like I was breathing mud. I called out. My voice bounced off the walls. It went, "Hello? Anyone?" My voice sounded small, like a little mouse squeaking. It echoed back at me. "Hello? Anyone? One?" Then it just died, but only quiet answered me. The air felt heavy, like a big, thick blanket. It pressed down on me. The light got dimmer. The canyon felt like it was holding its breath. It was spooky, really spooky. My heart started to pound. A fast, hard beat. Boom, boom, boom. So loud in my ears. I could feel the blood rushing. My hands felt sweaty. My mouth felt like sandpaper. I tried to swallow, but there was nothing there. I looked around wildly. Every path looked the same. Every turn. I picked a path. It looked wider than the others. I thought it would lead me out. Back to my group. Back to safety. Back to the light. But it didn't. It got smaller instead. The walls came closer and closer. So close I could touch both sides. I had to turn sideways to squeeze through. The rock scraped my backpack. My heart started beating faster, like a drum going crazy in my chest. Boom, boom, boom. It was so loud in my ears. I could feel the blood rushing. My hands felt sweaty. My breath came in short, quick gasps, like I was running, but I wasn't. I was just standing there, trapped. I told myself I'd find them. Any second now. They had to be just around the next bend. Just a little further. I kept telling myself that. Over and over. Like a broken record in my head. Don't panic. Don't panic. I tried to whistle a song, to make some noise, but my mouth felt too dry. My throat felt tight. The air smelled like dust and old stone, and something else. Something I couldn't quite name, like a faint sweet smell, or maybe just my fear. It was like old dirt, and something green, something alive, but hidden. The shadows were getting longer now, deeper. They seemed to reach for me. Then, I heard something. A soft hum. It floated through the air. It wasn't a song. Not really. It was low, like someone tuning a guitar very slowly, a single, long note. It had a rhythm to it, a quiet, steady beat. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. It wasn't scary, though. Not really. It was calming, like a lullaby, but also strange. Very strange. Up ahead I saw someone, a figure. She was sitting on a ledge. Her legs were crossed, easy and calm, like she had been there forever, like the canyon was her living room. She seemed to fit right in. She looked a bit older than me, maybe a few years, but not much. Her dark hair was tied back, with a piece of leather. It looked soft and shiny. It caught the dim light. She wore a loose, light shirt and jeans. Her boots were covered in red dust, the same dust that was all around us. A bracelet hung from her wrist. It was woven, and a little bit old, maybe worn, but it had bright blue beads. Turquoise, they're called. They looked like tiny pieces of the sky, so bright. They seemed to glow in the dim light, like little blue eyes watching me. "You're off the path," she said. Her voice was warm, like sunshine on a cool morning. It was so calm, so peaceful, like a gentle breeze. She wasn't judging me, not at all. She was just saying a fact, plain and simple, like she knew it already, like she had been waiting for me. I told her I lost my group. My cheeks felt hot. I felt kind of dumb for getting lost. My voice sounded small, like a little mouse squeaking. I mumbled my words. She just smiled, a soft, easy smile. It made her eyes crinkle at the corners. She stood up. She brushed dust off her hands like it was nothing, like she did it every day. "I can show you the way out," she said. Her eyes were kind. They held a deep, quiet knowing, like she had seen a lot of things. "It's not far from here." Her name was Luz. That's Spanish for light. I liked her name. It felt right, like a light in the darkness. She moved so quietly, like a cat padding along. She seemed very sure of herself, like she knew every stone. Her steps were steady, even on the bumpy ground. She didn't stumble once. She didn't even seem to think about where to step. I followed her. I was really thankful. A huge wave of relief washed over me, like cool water on a hot day. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted, but also a little bit uneasy. A strange feeling, a tiny prickle on my skin. The canyon felt different now. It wasn't so scary anymore. The light was softer somehow, like the walls were opening for us, letting us pass, breathing with us. The air felt lighter, easier to breathe. The hum was still there, very faint, like it was part of the canyon itself, part of Luz. I asked her if she was with the artist place. She shook her head no. Her dark hair swayed a little. I just know these canyons, she said. Her eyes caught the light. They looked like shiny, yellow-brown rocks, like polished amber, warm and deep. They seemed to hold old secrets, secrets she knew, secrets of the desert. The path she took twisted and turned. I hadn't seen these turns before, not on the way in. It was like a maze, a secret maze. We passed old rock drawings, petroglyphs, pictures carved into the stone. I swore they weren't there earlier, not on the path I had taken. Spirals, hands, a lonely coyote, all cut into the rock, faded but clear. They looked like they had been there forever, but also like they were new. Lou stopped by one. She traced it with her finger, very gently. "This one's mine," she said. Her voice was soft, like a secret whispered on the wind. Then she kept walking. I wanted to ask her what she meant. What did she mean, mine? Did she draw it? Was she that old? My mind spun with questions, but something in her voice stopped me. It was like a secret, a very old one, too old to ask about, too deep to understand right now. So I just walked. I looked at the drawings as we passed. Each one seemed to tell a story I couldn't quite read, but I felt it, deep inside me. We walked past a dry riverbed. The stones were smooth and round. Water used to flow there. A long, long time ago, before I was born, before anyone I knew was born, the riverbed was wide, filled with smooth gray stones, like giant marbles. There was a rusty metal bottle, half buried in the sand. It looked ancient, like something from a really old movie or a treasure map. None of this looked like the path I came in on. Not at all. It was a completely different way, like a hidden path, a path only Luce knew, a path for lost things. We walked on. The air was getting cooler now. The light was changing. It felt like hours we walked, but also like only minutes. Time felt strange with her. It stretched and pulled, like a rubber band. Sometimes it felt like we were floating, like our feet weren't even touching the ground, just gliding. The canyon walls started to open up, just a little at first, then more and more. The sky got wider above us, a pale blue. Then the canyon opened up to a big flat area. The sky was wide above us, so big and blue. It felt like a giant sigh, a breath of fresh air. I could see the artist huts, far away in the distance. They looked tiny from here, like little toy houses. A huge wave of relief washed over me again, like cool water on a hot day. I felt safe again. I felt found. I turned to thank Luce. My mouth was open, ready to speak, but she was already walking back, towards the canyon's dark mouth. She was moving away from me. Her steps were still quiet, like she was part of the wind. "You'll be okay now," she said. Her smile was quick, but very kind. It reached her eyes. She raised one hand, like a wave goodbye, a gentle farewell. Then she turned, and she was gone, into the shadows of the rock, just like that, like she was never there, like a ghost. My breath hitched in my throat. The hum was gone now too, just the sound of the wind, and my own breathing. I stood there for a moment, just staring at the empty canyon mouth. It looked dark and deep, like a secret mouth. My legs felt tired but light, like I was floating. I walked back to my group. My mind was spinning. They didn't even notice I was gone, not one of them. It was like no time had passed. Clara, the guide, was still talking about the canyon's history. She said we'd only been walking for 20 minutes. 20 minutes? It felt like so much longer, like a whole afternoon, like a lifetime. My head felt fuzzy, like I had been dreaming, but I knew I hadn't. Every detail was sharp in my mind. I told her about Luce. I described her dark hair, the turquoise bracelet, the way she moved, the way she just knew things. Clara frowned. Her eyebrows went down. She looked at me funny, like I was making things up, like I was sick. "No one else is out here today," she said. Her voice was firm. "Just us. We're the only group." She looked around like she was checking the empty air. "And that path you said you took?" she added. "It's not on our maps. Not any map I know." My heart gave a little jump. A strange feeling. A cold knot in my stomach. Like a tiny ice cube. It twisted. I didn't say anything else. I just nodded. But I knew. I knew what I saw. It was real. She was real. The rest of the walk was a blur. I didn't draw anymore. I just walked. My mind kept going back to Luz, her calm eyes, her quiet steps, the way she just appeared and then disappeared, like magic. Later that day, I was at the Artist Place library. It was small and dusty. It smelled like old paper and dry wood, like a forgotten attic. I looked through a book. It was about the local history of the area, old photos and stories, faded pictures of people from long ago, and tales of the desert, stories of the old ones, of the land itself. I wasn't really looking for anything, just flipping pages, trying to make sense of what happened. A faded photo made me stop. My breath caught in my throat. My eyes went wide. It was a young woman, dark hair, a turquoise bracelet, just like Luz. She was standing by a canyon wall, the same kind of wall. The caption under the photo read, "Luz Martinez, lost in a flash flood, 2008. My blood ran cold, like ice water had been poured over me. 2008. That was years ago. I was just a little kid in 2008. She was gone. She had been gone for a long, long time, but she had been there, with me, just a few hours ago. Her smile in the photo was the same. Her eyes, the way she stood. It was her, no doubt. My hands started to shake. The book felt heavy. I closed it quickly, like it was burning my fingers. I put it back on the shelf. I didn't tell anyone, not a single soul. My aunt would have said it was the heat, or just my imagination playing tricks. She would have said I was tired. She would have said I needed more sleep, or less sun. But I knew. I knew what I saw. It was real. She was real. The secret felt heavy in my chest, but also precious, like a hidden gem. I kept drawing that spiral, the one Luz had touched with her finger. It was burned into my mind. I tried to remember everything about her, to hold on to the feeling of that day. The desert keeps its secrets. It holds them tight, like a closed fist. But I know Luz was real. She was there. She found me when I was lost, when I needed someone. And she led me home. She really did. I think about her sometimes, how she just appeared out of nowhere, like a whisper in the wind, and then vanished back into the shadows, like a desert mirage, shimmering in the heat. But a helpful one, a kind one. It changed how I saw things, everything. The desert wasn't just empty anymore. It had a heartbeat, a quiet, steady thrum. It had whispers on the wind. It had old stories hidden in the rocks, and maybe it had guardians, like Luz, spirits watching over the land. I learned to look closer after that day, to listen harder, to the quiet parts of the world, the ones you usually miss when you're busy, the ones that hum. My art changed too. It got deeper, more real, more honest. I started painting the shadows and the light, how they play together, how they hide things in plain sight and show things when you least expect it. I painted the spirals, the ones on the rocks. They felt like a connection to something old, something powerful, something that lived beyond time. My aunt still talks about that trip to New Mexico. She says it opened me up. She thinks it was just the quiet or the beauty of the landscape. She doesn't know how much it really did. But it was more than that. It was Luz. It was the canyon. It was the secret I carried. A secret that changed me, made me see the world in a new way. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right, through the dry bushes, I think I can hear it. That soft hum, like someone tuning a guitar, a quiet song, from the heart of the desert. And I smile, because I know. I know it's her, still watching, still there, in the vast, empty beauty of the New Mexico desert, forever. She's part of the wind, part of the stone, part of the quiet hum, and I'm part of her story now. The boy she found in the canyon, the boy she led home, I'll never forget her, never. I never really liked those dating apps. They always felt kind of fake, like you were just looking at pictures of people, like choosing something from a machine. You know, swipe left for no thanks, swipe right for maybe. It just felt weird. But last year, my longtime girlfriend and I broke up. It was a really tough time. I felt pretty lost and super lonely. I just wanted to hide away from everything. My friend Kieran, though, he was always pushing me. Dude, you gotta get back out there, he'd say. Don't just sit around. There are plenty of fish in the sea. He meant well, I guess. He kept talking about these apps. He swore they were how everyone met people now. I kept saying no, but he was really good at wearing me down. He'd bring it up every time we hung out. Finally, one rainy Tuesday night, I was just sitting alone, feeling sorry for myself. I was scrolling through my phone, and Kieran's words just echoed in my head. Maybe he was right. So I did it. I downloaded an app. It was called Flint. It wasn't one of the really big ones like Tinder that everyone knew. That actually made it feel a little better somehow. Less like a huge market, more like a quiet corner shop. Less gross, I guess. More low-key, more real, or at least that's what I told myself. It felt like maybe I could find someone who wasn't just looking for a quick hookup. I spent a few minutes making my profile. I picked out 2 photos that I thought looked pretty decent. Not too posed, not too messy. Just me, looking normal. For my bio, I typed something simple. Just here to meet someone genuine. I thought it sounded good, like I was honest. But looking back, that was kind of a lie. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. Maybe I just wanted a distraction, something to keep my mind busy. Maybe I just wanted someone to help me forget about everything that had happened, to forget how much it hurt. I just wanted to feel something else. The first few matches were exactly what I expected. Dead ends, mostly. People who didn't really seem to care. It was just like Kieran said, a sea of people. One girl messaged me right away. Her first question was, "Do you like cats?" I typed back that I had allergies, and she unmatched me right then. Poof, gone. Another match wanted to meet up that very night, like within an hour. I told her I'd rather chat a bit first, get to know each other. She got really angry. She sent me a bunch of angry messages, calling me names. Then she unmatched me too. It was pretty disheartening. I almost deleted the app right then. It felt like a waste of time, like I was just swiping through a bunch of strangers who didn't really care. It made me feel even more alone than before. I was about to give up on Flint, just delete it and forget about the whole thing. But then, there was Ray. Her profile popped up, and it was different. Really simple. Only 3 photos. No fancy filters, no weird angles that made her look like someone else. Just her. In one picture, she was sitting on the floor of a bookstore. She was barefoot, which was kind of odd, but also cool. She was holding a book. The book was called House of Leaves. I'd heard of it before. It was a pretty thick, strange book. That photo really stuck with me. It made her seem interesting. Her bio was super short, just 1 line. Ask me something no one else does. It wasn't like the other bios, which were usually full of emojis or lists of hobbies, so I thought about it for a bit. What would be a question no one else would ask? I wanted to be clever, but also real. I messaged her. If you could erase one smell from the world forever, what would it be? It felt like a silly question, but it was unique. She replied really fast, like within a minute. Wet concrete. Don't ask why. That was her whole answer. It was short, a little dark, and definitely weird. But it made me smile. It was exactly what her bio promised. It made me want to know more. So we kept talking. We talked every single day after that. For a whole week. It was crazy. She wasn't like anyone I had ever met before. She was witty, which meant she was smart and funny with her words. She was a little dark, like she saw things differently. And she was quiet, but intense. Her messages were always so thoughtful, even when they were short. She always replied within seconds. It was like she was always there, always around, always watching, almost. It was a strange feeling, but I didn't think too much of it at the time. I was just happy to be talking to someone interesting. I did notice something, though. She never sent voice notes, never wanted to do a video call. She always kept it to text. But somehow, that just made it feel more like a game, like she was a puzzle I was trying to solve. It made me more curious about her. I found myself thinking about her all the time, what she was doing, what she was like in real life. I was hooked. After 10 days of just chatting, she asked me the question I was hoping for. Want to meet? Of course, I said yes. I typed it back so fast. My heart was thumping. I was excited, but also a little nervous. She sent me an address. It was in an old part of town, a place I wasn't really familiar with, which was weird, because I'd lived in this city my whole life. The street was called Latchmere Row. I typed it into my GPS. It was a little out of the way, tucked behind some older buildings. I got there right at 8 p.m., just like we agreed. The sun was setting, and the streetlights were just starting to hum on. The street itself was off. Not in a scary movie way, not with fog rolling in or anything, just empty, really, really quiet. It was dead silent, like it had been forgotten by the rest of the city. No cars parked, no people walking around, just old brick buildings. There was only one window that had a light on. It was on the second floor of a 3-story townhouse. It glowed a soft yellow. I pulled out my phone and texted Ray that I was there. My fingers felt a little shaky. I was excited to finally see her. She replied instantly. Again, that super-fast reply. Door's open. Come upstairs. 3rd floor. My stomach did a little flip. The door was open? That was a bit strange, but I told myself it was fine. Maybe it was an old building. I got out of my car. The air felt colder on this street. I walked up the few steps to the townhouse. The front door was indeed slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly. The inside of the building was even stranger than the outside. The hallway was narrow, really narrow. The walls were stained. It looked like old water damage, dark streaks running down the wallpaper. It smelled weird, too, like mildew, that damp, old smell. And something else, something sour, like old flowers left in water for too long. It was a heavy smell. I started to climb the stairs. Every single step I took, the old wood creaked. It echoed loudly in the silent building. Each creak sounded like a scream, or at least that's how it felt in that quiet place. My boots seemed to make so much noise. I reached the 2nd floor. The window I'd seen from outside was here. There was a light on, just like I saw. But the door to that room was shut tight. I hesitated for a second. Should I knock? No, Ray said 3rd floor. So I kept climbing. My heart was beating a little faster now. Up to the 3rd floor. The hallway up here was completely dark, no lights on at all. It was hard to see. But then I saw it. A faint flicker. It was coming from the room at the very end of the hallway. Just a tiny, unsteady light. I paused again. My hand was on the banister, and it felt rough and dusty. The air was still and heavy. That's when I noticed it. The floor. It was too quiet. Like my steps didn't make any sound anymore. Not a single creak. It was like sound itself had been swallowed up by the darkness. Like the building was holding its breath. It was an unnatural silence. The room door at the end of the hall was half open. Just a crack. I could see the flickering light better now. I pushed the door open a little more and stepped inside slowly. The light was coming from an old TV, a really old one, like from the 90s. It was a CRT television, the big, bulky kind. It was glowing static blue. That fuzzy, snowy screen, no picture, just noise. No one was in the room. I looked around. It was small, dusty. Just the TV, a small table, and nothing else. "Ray," I called out. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the static hum. No answer, just the TV's soft hiss. Then I saw it, on the far wall, a mirror. It was full length, from the floor to almost the ceiling, framed in black wood, and someone had written something across the glass, in bright, angry red marker, big, messy letters. "You've matched." I stared at it. My mind was trying to make sense of it. What did it mean? Was this some kind of joke? A weird art thing? I felt confused, and then, slowly, a cold feeling started to spread through my stomach, a twisting feeling. Because then I saw something else in the mirror, something that made my blood run cold. There was someone standing right behind me, my breath caught in my throat. I spun around so fast, my head felt light, but the room was empty, totally empty. There was no one there, just the static TV, the dusty room, and me. I must have imagined it. My heart was pounding now. I turned back to the mirror, and he was still there. The person in the reflection, still standing right behind me. It wasn't Ray, it was a man. His face was pale, almost white, and he had this wide, creepy grin stretched across his lips. His eyes were wide, so wide, and bloodshot, like he hadn't slept in days. His pupils were huge, dilated like saucers. He was wearing a hoodie. It looked soaked, like he'd just come out of the rain. Dark liquid was dripping from it onto the wooden floor. It made little dark puddles. I couldn't move. I was frozen, staring at him in the mirror. He just grinned. Then slowly he lifted his hand. It was pale too, and I felt something cold. It brushed the back of my neck. It wasn't a touch. It was more like a whisper of cold air, right on my skin. But it felt like a finger. A cold, dead finger. That was it. That was all I needed. I didn't even think. I just reacted. Pure, raw fear. I screamed. I didn't even look behind me. I just ran. I bolted out of that room, down the dark hallway. I flew down the stairs, 2 steps at a time. My feet pounded on the old wood, but I didn't care about the noise now. I burst through the front door, not even bothering to close it, and I ran out into the street. The street. It looked different now, darker than it had when I arrived. The shadows seemed deeper, longer. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the key into the ignition. As I fumbled with the key, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It felt like a shock. I pulled it out. One new message, from Ray. It just said, "You made it out. Not everyone does." That was it. My stomach churned. I blocked her number right then and there, didn't even think twice. Then I opened the Flint app. My fingers were still shaking, but I managed to find the delete button. I deleted the app. I swore off dating apps entirely, forever. I never wanted to see one again. I just wanted to forget everything that had happened. I drove home, my mind racing. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound made me jump. I didn't sleep that night. But that wasn't the end of it. Not at all. 2 weeks went by. I tried to go back to normal. I tried to forget. I went to work, hung out with friends. But I kept looking over my shoulder. Every dark corner, every quiet street made me uneasy. The image of that man in the mirror was stuck in my head. I had nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat, thinking I felt that cold touch on my neck. I tried to tell myself it was just a bad dream. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Kieran. "Bro, you won't believe it," the text read, matched with this weird girl on some app. My heart jumped. I felt a cold dread spread through me. I didn't even want to read the rest, but I did. Barefoot in a bookstore holding House of Leaves. Should I swipe right? I froze. My entire body went ice cold. My hands felt like blocks of ice. It couldn't be. I called him immediately. My finger jabbed at his name on my screen. It rang and rang. He didn't answer. I called again and again. Nothing. Just the ringing, then his voicemail. I tried to tell myself he was just busy. Maybe he was asleep, but I knew. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next day, I couldn't wait. I drove straight to his apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I knocked on his door. No answer. I knocked harder. Nothing. No sound from inside. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. Just like the door on Latchmere Row. My blood ran cold. I pushed the door open slowly. "Kieran?" I called out. My voice was shaky. His apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Everything looked untouched. His shoes were by the door. His mail was on the table. It looked like he'd just stepped out for a minute, but the silence felt heavy. Wrong. I walked further inside, calling his name again. The air felt still. My eyes scanned every room. Then I saw it. In his hallway, on the wall. His mirror. It was a big mirror, just like the one I saw. And across the glass, in that familiar, messy red marker were 2 words: "You're next." My knees felt weak. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The words burned into my eyes. It wasn't over. It was never over. It was a game, and I was still playing. And now, Kieran was part of it too. I felt a scream building in my chest, but no sound came out, just a choked gasp. The silence of the apartment felt like it was pressing in on me. I was trapped, and I knew, with a terrible certainty, that the game had just begun, and I was the next one up to bat. We were 6 people, just a crew, 4 guys and 2 women. We got hired to knock down this old prison. It was called Roscoe State Penitentiary. It sat way out past a town called Millershade. That place was so small, it's not even on maps anymore. Just a few broken down houses and a gas station with no gas. The prison itself looked like a giant, angry stone monster. Big dark walls that seemed to lean in on you. The air around it felt heavy, like a blanket made of bad memories. It had been shut down for a long, long time. Since 1973, they said. There was a big fire back then, in one part called Block D. They whispered that half the people inside died in that fire, burned up, trapped in their cells. Just thinking about it made my skin crawl. My name's Charles Core. I'm a foreman, meaning I lead the demolition work. I've been doing this for 20 years, busting up concrete, flooding old mines. I even helped take down whole shopping centers. I've seen some rough places, some sad places, but I gotta tell you, I never felt anything like I felt when I first stepped into that prison. It just felt wrong, like the air itself was thick and heavy. It was like the building was holding its breath, waiting for something. They told us everything was checked out. They said it was safe to tear down. The paperwork was all signed. The money was good. But what they didn't know, what none of us could have known, was that there was something else there. Something deep under the prison. It was buried under all the ash and broken bits. A secret level, a sub-level. It wasn't on any of the old maps or blueprints, and it wasn't empty, no sir. It was still occupied. We were about to find that out the hard way. The first sign that something was off came real quick. It was only our 2nd day there. The sun was out, but it felt cold. Marcus, he was the youngest guy on our crew. Still a kid really, maybe just out of high school. He was digging out this collapsed staircase. It was in Block D, the part that burned. We were clearing out the rubble, getting ready to bring in the big machines. That's when he found it. A big old iron door, sealed tight. It was buried deep under all the mess, hidden from view. It looked super old, The steel was all rusty and flaking off in big pieces, like it had been there for 100 years. But here's the weird part. It hadn't moved an inch since the fire. No burn marks on it. No signs it had fallen apart. It was just there, like it was put there on purpose, then forgotten, or maybe not forgotten at all. Maybe it was meant to stay hidden. We should have stopped right then. I told them, let's just leave it alone. My gut was screaming at me to walk away, but people are curious, It's like a sickness, a itch you just have to scratch. We just had to see what was behind it. Dean, he was the biggest guy, always wanting to prove something. He grabbed a crowbar. Laura and Reggie helped him. We pushed and pulled, straining against the heavy metal. The rust creaked and groaned. Finally, with a loud grinding sound, we pried that heavy door open, and that's when we heard it. A sound, deep and wet. It came from way down below us, like something taking its first breath in years. It was like a big, slow inhale, a long, drawn-out gasp. It made the hair on my arms stand up, and a shiver ran down my spine. At first, we tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was just old pipes or air pressure changing. The prison was full of strange noises, or maybe an echo from the tunnels, playing tricks on us. We tried to laugh it off, but our smiles didn't reach our eyes. But then, the quiet that followed was even worse. It was thick, heavy. It pressed down on us, making it hard to breathe. The air got colder, too, like someone had opened a freezer door, and it had this strange metallic smell. Like old, rusty coins mixed with cleaning stuff, like bleach. It was just wrong. It smelled like death and something else, something unnatural. Marcus was the first one to disappear. He was brave, or maybe just dumb. He took a headlamp and went down the ladder into that new sub-level. He wanted to scout it out, he said. Just a quick look. We told him to be careful, but he just grinned and disappeared into the darkness. He radioed back after about 3 minutes. His voice was just a whisper. It sounded shaky, like he'd seen a ghost. He said, It's not a storage room. I think it's cells. But they're all wrong. They're crooked. They bend. Then just static. A harsh buzzing sound. Nothing else. We waited. We called his name over and over. Marcus? Marcus. But there was no answer. Just that cold, heavy silence. The static faded away, leaving us alone with our fear. So I had to go. I'm the foreman. He was my responsibility. My stomach was doing flips, but I knew I couldn't just leave him. I grabbed my own headlamp and started down that dark ladder. Each rung felt colder than the last. The darkness swallowed me whole. The walls down there were just like Marcus said. They twisted. They literally bent at weird angles, like the whole place had just grown that way. It wasn't built by people, that's for sure. It felt alive, but in a bad way, like a living, breathing nightmare. I shined my light around. The beam struggled to cut through the gloom. I saw a streak of dark, wet blood on the floor. It wasn't smeared like someone had fought. No, it was dragged, like someone had pulled something, or someone on purpose. A chill went through me. I kept calling Marcus's name, my voice echoing in that awful place. It sounded small and weak against the silence. Every step I took, the air got colder, heavier. It felt like walking through thick mud, until I saw it, his helmet. It was just sitting there on the ground. The light from it was still on, but it was pointing away from me. It was right next to a cell door, and that door, it was melted open. Not broken, not blasted, but melted, like it was made of wax, not steel. The edges were dripping, still soft somehow. And inside that cell, man, inside was a pile of bones. Not just one person, dozens of them. They were all stuck together, twisted in pain, like they had died in a terrible struggle. Their heads were bent backward, their jaws hanging open in silent screams. It was the most awful thing I'd ever seen. A nightmare made real. And then I saw it move. A human hand. It was still twitching, just barely. It stuck out from the pile of bones, and on its wrist I saw it, Marcus's watch. The light from his helmet glinted off the glass. It was definitely his. I screamed. It wasn't a brave scream. It was a scream of pure terror, raw and animal. My blood ran cold. I turned and I ran. I scrambled back up that ladder as fast as I could, not looking back. My heart was pounding like a drum, and when I climbed out, gasping for air, I knew it. Something followed me. I didn't see it clearly, not really, but I felt it. A cold breath on my neck. Something with nails like railroad spikes, long and sharp, and skin like old, wrinkled black paper. It never showed itself fully. It stayed just out of my sight. But I could feel it, always there, just behind my shoulder. It was like a shadow that breathed, a dark, hungry presence that had latched onto me. I could almost hear it breathing. Back on the surface, the rest of the crew saw my face. They saw the fear in my eyes, the way I was shaking. Laura, Dean, Reggie, Thomas. They looked at me like I was crazy at first. They tried to tell me it was just the stress, the old prison playing tricks on my mind. They tried to make me drink some water, tried to calm me down. But then night came. And that's when the generators failed. The whole place went dark, suddenly, completely. And that's when we all saw it. A dark shape. It was crawling up the side of the old silo wall, blacker than the night itself. Its body was making this awful crackling sound, like bark splitting on a tree, or bones breaking, over and over. Laura screamed, a high, piercing sound. Dean tried to shine a flashlight on it, but the light just disappeared. It was like the thing swallowed it whole. It drank the light. The beam just vanished into its darkness. We ran and locked ourselves inside the supply shed. It was just a small metal building, not very strong, but it was all we had. We tried to radio for help. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. But even our backup radio, the one we kept for emergencies, only made one sound. It was a voice, repeating the same words over and over. "He is hungry. Feed the guilt." Over and over. It wasn't static. It was a message. A clear, chilling message meant just for us. It filled the small shed. By day 4, things were really bad. The air felt thick with dread. We hadn't slept right in days. Reggie was dead. He slit his own throat in his sleep. Just gone. We found him in his bunk, a terrible sight. And Thomas, he just wandered into the boiler room. We heard his screams, but by the time we got there, it was too late. He burned himself alive in there, and he was smiling, a wide, terrible smile, like he was happy to be gone. It was feeding on us, you know, not on our bodies, not directly, but on our minds, on our guilt, our regrets. It was like it knew all the bad things we'd ever done, every secret, every mistake, every dark thought. It used them against us. Laura finally broke down. She told us something awful. Her voice was thin, like a ghost's. She used to work for the prison before it closed. She was a nurse. And the day of the fire, she left the infirmary door locked. All the people inside, the inmates, they burned alive. She just watched the flames and did nothing. I asked her why she did it. My voice was just a whisper. She just looked at me, her eyes empty and dead. She said, "They were monsters." And I looked at her, and I said, "No, now we are." The words tasted like ash. Dean, he just snapped. He started talking to someone who wasn't there. His eyes were wide and unfocused. He kept saying he'd served enough time, like he was in prison too, locked in his own head. He just got up, opened the sub-level door at night. He walked inside, like he was going home. We never saw him again, just the sound of his footsteps fading into the darkness. That left just me and Laura, alone in that awful place. The silence was deafening, broken only by our ragged breaths. We were surrounded by the darkness, by the terrible sounds, by the memories of what had happened to our crew. We were next. On day 6, we decided we had to end it. We couldn't just wait to die. We had to fight back. We rigged the whole place to blow. We had enough C4 explosives to collapse every tunnel, every cell, every single memory of that hellhole. We just wanted to make it disappear, to erase it from the face of the earth, to stop the thing that lived inside it. But it wouldn't let us leave. We tried to walk back to the main gate, but every path we took just looped us back. We walked for 2 hours, our legs aching, always ending up in the same burned hallway. It was like the prison was playing games with us. It was laughing at us. That's when it hit me. The place wasn't just a prison, it was a living thing, and it had a heart, a dark, twisted heart. And that heart was the sub-level, the place where it breathed. We had to go back down, one last time. My stomach churned, but there was no other way. I carried the detonator, the device that would set off the bombs. My hands were shaking, but I held it tight. Laura brought the rest of the charges, her hands shaking even worse than mine. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. The creature was waiting for us. We felt its presence before we saw it. The air grew heavy, cold. Its voice wasn't just one voice anymore. It was a chorus of the dead, all the people it had taken. It spoke in screams, all the screams of the people it had taken. Marcus, Reggie, Thomas, Dean, their voices twisted into one, and it wore their faces too, all the faces of our lost crew. They swam in the darkness, shifting and changing. And then, it said my name. Charles. Its voice was like sandpaper on my brain, scraping at my thoughts. You let your brother die. You let your wife leave. You built walls because you were afraid. Now, live in them. It knew. It knew all my secrets, all my regrets, every bad thing I'd ever done, every fear I had. It laid them bare. Laura panicked. She just screamed and triggered one of the charges too early. There was a loud boom. The entrance behind us collapsed. Dust and rubble rained down. We were trapped. No way out but forward. I begged her for the last charge. I told her I'd make sure it ended. I'd make sure this thing was gone for good. She just stared at me, her eyes full of tears, and handed it over. Her hand trembled against mine. Then she just ran. She ran down a dark tunnel, sobbing, her footsteps fading quickly. I called her name, but she was gone. I never saw her again. Just another ghost in this terrible place. I was truly alone now. I kept going, deeper into that twisted place. The walls seemed to close in on me. The air was thick with the metallic smell. I finally found the heart. It wasn't beating like a normal heart. It was breathing, A slow, wet inhale, just like the one we heard when we first opened the door. It was the source of all the evil. It looked like a cell, but inside was a mirror. A big, old mirror with a dark, cloudy surface. And in that mirror, I saw myself. Not just me right then, but every version of me, every choice I never made, every life I never lived, all the paths I didn't take, all the chances I let slip away. And behind me, in the reflection, stood a man. He was burned from head to toe. His skin was black and peeling. A prisoner, a god, a memory. His eyes were empty holes. His voice crawled into my skull, cold and sharp. "You can leave, Charles," he whispered. "Just leave what you are behind." He wanted me to give up. I placed the last charge. My hands were shaking, but I did it. I had to. For everyone. I pressed the button, and then everything went white. A blinding flash that swallowed the darkness. And then I woke up, in my own bed. The sun was shining through my window. It was quiet. Too quiet. No one remembers the penitentiary, not the government, not the small town of Miller Shade. It's like it never existed, like it was just a bad dream. And the crew? I can't find any records of them. It's like they were never even real people. But every night I hear it. That wet inhale. It's behind my wall now. The breath of something that followed me home. The only thing I kept from that job, the only proof it was real, is Marcus's watch. It sits on my nightstand. Sometimes it ticks backward. Sometimes I swear it bleeds. A dark, sticky liquid seeps from its cracks. And last night, I heard Laura scream. It wasn't outside. It was from inside my mirror, and I know it's waiting for me.